which you said at the end, my wife had heard it. No judgmental, don't be judgmental, don't be critical. Anyway, thank you. Distinguished guests and respected members of the fraternity. It gives me great honor to stand amongst you and speak on a very, very diabolic topic. For those who have heard it, like Mr. Srini just said, I did make this presentation in the London conference. Incidentally, it was also before lunch, so most of the people walked out. So today I have requested Milind to lock the doors so that people stay here. It's quite technical, so it can get a bit boring. But with the help of my colleagues back in my office, we have done quite a lot of research and a lot of hard work in putting this thing together. I should also give due accolades to the ones from whom I have borrowed ideas and snippets from the club bulletins and the underwriters like Joint Health Commission publications. I have also taken guidance from Tony sir and Milind to put this paper together. So if there are some things which are not right, they are my mistake. If they are right, it is their credit. I will start with this very important topic of catalytic fines in fuel oil and their repercussions. We have been hearing a lot of news bulletins in the recent past with regard to damage cases wherein fuel oil is the main cause. A bone of contention has been the quality of the fuel. Those of us who have been involved in this business know that it's not very easy to pinpoint when there is an issue related to a fuel. Nevertheless, it has raked up so much of interest worldwide for various reasons. So we have seen various bulletins coming out and various publications and reproaches coming from various quarters with regard to fuel monitoring. Why? And what is the cost? Why so much of this discussions? Research says that almost 43% of damages in the recent past have been attributed to machinery damages, of which quite a few have been related to fuel. The average cost of claim with relation to main engine damage is close to $5 million. The figures that you see on the graph is up to 2011, but I was not savvy enough to put up the later versions. 2012 has been much more than 2011. So on an average, the latest benchmarking for a hull and machinery claim related to main engine damage is touching $5 million US. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a very burning issue. That's what brings me to the topic of what are catalytic fines. Basically, what is a catalyst? If I can digress a bit, I can see most of the audiences are all married. So we have come across situations where our spouses say, I sorted out your problems. I did this, I sorted out the problems. But very rarely, we end up asking the spouse, who created it? So the catalyst, in a layman's language, is one which brings about a reaction, creates a problem, solves it, takes away the credit. At the same time, it retains its identity. The residual is still there. So coming back to the point, technically, the crude oil, when it goes through a fractionating stages of purification to a product which is usable as a gasoline or as a diesel oil, runs through quite a lot of technical processes wherein catalysts are used. These catalysts bring about the reaction, and at the end of it, it remains as a residue which is not required anymore. Nevertheless, it leaves behind a telltale mark which is going to be the point of our discussion today. So like I said, catalytic fines are substances like silicon and aluminum compounds which are required as catalysts in the refining processes. This method of crude oil treatment splits large high boiling hydrocarbon molecules into smaller particles. Low boiling molecules, it's only this conversion which creates fuel like petrol, diesel, kerosene from the core crude oil. This is just a graph. It highlights what I just mentioned. that a crude oil, when it goes through various processes, it passes through the stages where catalysts are used to bring it down to the end product. Before going further, a very short brief into the history of how and where the catalytic problems originated. All along, from the very beginning, the mode of transport used to be the dugout canoes, which was more made out of the bark of a tree or something like that. And slowly, mankind progressed to more modern ways of transportation, where we had the sails. Subsequently, we had little more mechanization by way of having oars adding on to the sails. Thereafter, we came with little more mechanization and more mechanization till in the 1912, the first diesel-driven engine was designed. A ship was designed with a diesel-driven engine. Subsequently, more research and development went into the industry, and it was not till the 1950s that the fully designed diesel engine operated ships were put into service on a commercial and a large scale basis, which also created what you are just about to see, problems related to fuel oil. So that brought about quite a few research organizations and bodies to try and digress into the matter and find out why and how do we control this problem. So it came out with some certain points as cat fines as being one of the main reasons for the problems. How? When these fuel oils were converted from the crude to the gasoline stage, it was found that these catalysts do not leave the vessel. I mean, it does not get burnt out. It continues to stay as a residual fuel. And the problems which are left behind for the main engine continues to be so. To highlight it, let me just show you a graph on the screen, a slide which shows the thickness of a strand of hair. A strand of hair, human hair, is about 50 to 70 microns. Microns is the unit used to measure the thickness of very fine particles. Even a beach sand is having about 90 microns as its thickness. However, a cat fine is much smaller. A catalytic fine finds its way through the mesh of the filters. No matter how fine the filters be, it is very difficult to identify and eliminate these particles because they are not very big. They are very small. Like you see in the graph, an average molecule of a catalytic fine is of 5 to 10 microns. Although there are bigger and smaller ones, but the predominant ones are 5 to 10 microns. They are very small to trap. And when they are so small to trap, it's very difficult to eliminate them. What do these small particles do? They embed themselves into the laminal of the cylinder liners or on the piston rings, and as a result, they continue to have what is called as an abrasive effect. We have just come out with a small sketch which is in a way identifying how easy a catalytic fine can find its way between a piston ring and a liner. If you see the purple color, that is oil film, and normal oil film is about 10 microns. This is between the liner and the piston ring, whereas the catalytic fines can be up to 25 microns. So you can imagine the slide number 2 on your screen, what a particle which is very hard, in fact it is harder than the material of the liner and of the piston ring, what this can do to the engine as it continues to run. So these embedded particles act like abrasives and come in between the two mating parts and destroys the oil film in the process because it polishes the surfaces to such a smooth stage that the oil is not retained. For those who are not in the know, the inner surfaces of piston liner are not absolutely mirror finish. They have got serrations with them, very fine serrations, which are intentionally kept so that the oil film can be retained. So when this abrasive material polishes it to a mirror finish, those serrations are washed out. As a result, the oil film is unable to be maintained between the two mating surfaces, causing erosion. The problem with catalytic fines, in fact, the identification of catalytic fines are too many. The specific gravity is too close to that of the oil. Therefore, it is difficult to separate it very easily through a standard procedures of purifiers. Their size is very small, difficult to catch into the finest of filters. The hardness is higher than the individual parts of the piston liner or of the piston ring. They match perfect to embed into the graphite laminal of the cast iron of the material of the liner and piston rings and any other counterpart which is capable of wearing down. So why all the hue and cry? Why are we talking so much more about it? Because of statistics. Statistics show in the last 12 years there have been many cases of meninge damages, and more or less they have been attributed to catalytic fines and bunker fuel. The rise in the number of cases since 2009 has been phenomenal. If you notice, 2012 was the highest. 2013, 2014, as per the latest statistical records, which I do not have on my slide, are relatively lesser because the trading has been lesser. The cargoes are less, the ships are trading lesser, so the reported incidences of catalytic fines have been lesser than 2012. This is another sketch of what is happening, why catalytic fines are becoming more and dominant, because newer regulations are coming in wherein the sulfur content has to be very less as per the newer regulations for emission control. So when we have such regulations, the process of refining becomes more critical and more difficult, imposing the refineries to use further catalysts. So more the regulations, stringent the rules, more the application of these catalysts. The research and technology is yet to reach a stage where we can eliminate these hard particles. So this is just a graph of one of the reasons why catalytic fines are becoming an issue, because sulfur content demands are going to be lesser and lesser worldwide. What does all this mean? The existing standards and the regulations are demanding that the catalytic fines have to be lesser. At the same time, the sulfur content also has to be lesser. So how does this interface happen? Too much is yet to be done. This is just the tip of an iceberg. We do not have answers to these questions, although the metallurgists and chemists are still working on this extensively. There are solutions on the horizon, but they are on the horizon. They are not yet in the reality. We are reaching that stage nevertheless. The engine manufacturers have started modifying with regard to their own research and development. So the specifications of cat fines as per the engine manufacturer is lesser as against the sulfur content requirement of various organizing bodies. So what are the solutions? A very interesting slide in front of you. Are we going to adopt solar energy? Because one of the things that we have noticed even in cat fines is it is more dominant on ships which are operating on low speed cross-head main engines. The high-speed engines have got lesser chances of catalytic fines because they have got this splash lubrication. The splash lubrication ensures that the particles do not get retained between the mating surfaces on a more frequent basis. However, in slow-speed cross-head main engines, those problems were still existing. So the innovations are coming in. So is this one of the innovations? It's a very interesting slide. Or is this another kind of a solution on the horizon? Recently I attended a seminar where they said that the ships are going to be totally UMS, unmanned ships, which is going to be a reality. One of the things they said, the prototype of the first of its kind is going to be implemented by 2020. So the solutions are not very far. Very soon we are going to see these kind of solutions. Or are we going to this kind of a solution? There are quite a few of them. Where do we go? How do we go? It calls for a lot of synergy. So the topic of the day is extremely good. Synergizing between surveyors, synergizing between concerned parties, synergizing between technology, and synergizing between ideas to solve the problem that we all are facing. So talking about problems, we have got three aspects here. One is the ship owner, The other is the underwriter, and third is the marine surveyor. So what are the problems with regard to catalytic fines being faced by the ship owners? I have just put in bullet points. I will not go much into it because it will take too much time. Insufficient capacity and poor efficiency of purifiers. Lack of knowledge of current fuel quality on board. Because the fuel is supplied and the vessel sails out, there isn't much time. We have to be realistic. Just pointing a finger at some person is not right. Due diligence has to be exercised at all stages and by all concerned parties. Just to blame a ship, most of us have been at sea. The easiest thing to do is to blame a ship for any problem, which I think is illogical in many a times. Blaming a ship for using wrong quality of fuel, they did not analyze it. But then commercial pressures are so much, you get the bunkers and you're immediately sailing out. So where does the ship get the opportunity to wait for the bunker analysis to come in before you can use it? The overlapping of bunkers, sometimes use of same tank for taking two bunkers. These are all challenges which are going to be one of the things which all concerned parties should be discussing about. So lack of knowledge of current fuel quality on board, very logical, easy to blame, but difficult to sort out. Absence of effective maintenance practices such as regular cleaning of fuel tanks. Easy to say fuel tanks should be cleaned, but we all know cleaning of fuel tanks is one of the most difficult tasks and a nightmare for a ship owner. How much time he has to spend in the dry docks to get a fuel tank clean is any ship owner's nightmare decision. So these problems faced by ship owners have got their own negative impact on CAT fines. However, we have to realize that there are opportunities when a single cylinder unit on a large two-stroke engine can cost the same as the value of this car. It's a fact. If you go down to the commercials, this is a fact. So these are other problems which are faced by the ship owners with regard to catalytic fines. We discussed about it earlier, where the scoring of the cylinder liner happens due to the embedding of the particles within the mating surfaces. Engine wear, it is faster. Historically, engine which needs to be serviced after say 20,000 hours or say in terms of 2 years time may have to be serviced much earlier if the fuel quality used on board is not diligently monitored. A bad fuel, CAT fines in the fuel can bring down the life of your engine from 1 year to as low as 1 week. So this is a challenge which has to be faced very strongly by all concerned parties. Because the main engine's life is equal to the vessel's life. Overhauling of the parts is getting costlier. Corrosive wear may reduce the useful life of the liners by almost half of its lifespan. Dirty fuel with CAT fines may limit liner life considerably. No questions about that. Now, what are the problems faced by underwriters? Joint committee has been discussing quite a lot. Too much thought has been put into these kind of solutions. I am at this particular stage not in a position to delve more on that, but we can talk about it because we have got historic data to substantiate what I am saying. Finding the cause of a problem which is bunker related is a big challenge. It's very difficult to identify when and where that particular fuel caused the damage. We are right now handling one particular case where a bulk carrier had a vent pipe passing through its cargo hold. The vent pipe was, there were holes in the vent pipe in way of the bulkhead. There was no which way, it's an IX class vessel, no which way the surveyor or anybody could have noticed these cracks on the vent pipes. They were loading alumina. Some of the alumina went through these passages, through these cracks into the bunker tanks. The vent pipes were of the bunker tank, fuel oil tank number 2, and the fuel got contaminated. And it is a big issue. The underwriters are also trying to find out how to solve this problem because some of the bunkers have already been used. Analysis has been done. The aluminum percentage in the bunker is on the upper level but within the maximum allowable limit. So that is a point of debate now. One party says it is within limit, so it's not our liability. The other party says it is higher than normal, so it is not my liability. So this is one of the problems that underwriters are facing with regard to fuel bunker, quality of fuel, the causation. Then damage may occur over a period of time, possibly more than one occasion before the cause is identified. You have taken bunkers from multiple ports, the vessel has sailed out, and where do you attribute it? Which bunker do you attribute it? Due diligence proviso, we all talk about due diligence, but it is not very easy and practically imposed where bunkers and quality of bunkers are concerned. Deductibles, where will the deductibles be applied? These are the challenges which the underwriters are going to be facing in problems related to bunkers. Damages may span policy period whereby different underwriters concerned but only one deductible applicable. So same issue like we spoke about earlier. Now what are the problems faced by surveyors with respect to catalytic fines and fuel oil? These are two images. One of them is mine. I still work. What are the problems faced by surveyors? Now problems of this nature, it's easy. The solutions are difficult, but identification of problem is relatively easy because you know what went wrong. But in the case of a catalytic fine in fuel oil, identification is a big problem. The solution is easy. You change the bunkers, you clean the tanks, you replace some parts, you know finite solutions for problems. But identifying is a big challenge because like we discussed earlier, the particles are so small, they are very difficult to be traced. There are solutions, like I said, on the far horizon, light at the end of the tunnel. There are a few innovators who have come out with products where catalytic fines can be identified and controlled. But it is still in an infinite stage and it will still take a long time before they can be implemented. So how do we control and reduce the content of catalytic fines? Practical point of view, timely analysis of fuel oil, running two purifiers in parallel with minimum flow rate, adjust the gravity disk in such a way that the output rate is much slower. It should be just enough to take care of your daily requirement. Instead of we having a service tank filled up for 2 days of operation, if we are able to use a gravity disk and time the purifier such that what we get is adequate for that particular day. The process should be as slow as possible. Slower the process, better the efficiency. So that is one of the things which can be implemented at the ground level or at the ship level, if I may say so. Inspection of fuel system filters more periodically and in a better way. Storing new bunkers separately, if practically possible. Most cases it is not. We cannot be having one tank for each port of a bunker. But that's a thought. Drip sampling of fuel. Instead of just taking a running sample, take a drip sample so it is more representative. So the analysis reports that we get will be more correct. Then draining water from service and settling tank, basic things. We all do it, we all know we have to do it, but believe you me, many a times it is not done. I still go on ships, when I ask them to start the generators, I see them straightway opening the bottle and starting the generator, without doing the basic things like checking the oil, without doing the basic thing like draining the air bottle before they open it to start the generator. So these are all small reminders. We all know it, but we don't implement it. Do not allow drained oil from the filters back into the system without diligent purification. Regular maintenance of fuel treatment system, yes, theoretically correct. So, I am coming towards the end of I have almost come to the end of my presentation. But without concluding, I cannot go out of this place without a few thoughts. Catalytic fines and the damages and the claims arising out of them can be phenomenally high. So we need to mitigate the cost of claims due to catalytic fines. We need to implement rules to meet the global environmental legislations, where low sulfur content is the demand of the day. So how do we meet this? It's not a challenge, it is a problem. A problem can be solved by due diligence and synergy. Find remedial measures to counter the challenges of catalytic fines. Yes, how to monitor them and how to control them. Need to conduct proactive debate to evaluate solutions. Like I said, synergy, synergy, synergy. Do we continue to try and fit square pegs in round holes? Try finding faults, try to play the blame game, or do we attempt to round the pegs so that they can fit in easily? Find solutions amicably so that everyone is happy at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of it all, I would leave you with a thought. Are we going in for litigation or are we going for mitigation? If we want to go for mitigation, we need to keep calm and synergize. Thank you very much.